The radio crackled with static, then silence. Command had lost contact with Strike Team 7:43 minutes ago. In the operations center at Bagram Airfield, Afghanistan, faces glowed blue in the light of tactical displays showing nothing but empty desert and the blinking icons of friendly forces pinned down in a canyon they called the Devil's Throat. The Taliban had them surrounded. Ammunition was critical, casualties mounting. The quick reaction force wouldn't arrive for another hour, and by then the mathematics of combat suggested there would be no one left to save. Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Vance stood with his arms crossed, jaw tight, watching the digital map like it might suddenly offer a miracle. Then someone in the back of the room said it quietly, almost embarrassed. "What about Warden?" Vance didn't turn around. He knew exactly who they meant to. Captain Alara Warden had been sitting in the ready room for 6 hours, her flight suit unzipped to the waist, boots propped on a folding chair, reading a dog-eared paperback with a cover so faded you couldn't make out the title anymore. She'd been at Bagram for 9 months, flying close air support missions in an A-10 Thunderbolt II they called Razorback. The Warthog. Ugly, slow, built around a cannon that could shred tanks. It wasn't glamorous. Neither was she, according to the men who'd served with her and decided she'd gotten her wings through some quota system rather than skill. They never said it to her face. They didn't have to. She could hear it in the way they clipped their words when she walked into the briefing room, the way they looked past her instead of at her. She heard boots approaching fast. The door swung open. A young airman, breathless, eyes wide. "Captain Warden, you're up. Strike Team 7 is compromised. They need close air support now." Alara closed her book slowly, stood, zipped her flight suit to her throat. "What's the weather?" "Deteriorating. Low ceiling. Sandstorm rolling in from the west." She nodded once, grabbed her helmet and walked past him without another word. Outside, the wind was already picking up, carrying grit that stung exposed skin. Razorback sat on the tarmac, scarred and patched, nose art barely visible under years of wear, a raven clutching a broken sword. Ground crews scrambled around it, prepping for launch. Alara climbed the ladder, settled into the cockpit, hands moving through pre-flight checks with the muscle memory of someone who'd done this 500 times before. Engine startup. Systems green. Tower clearance. She throttled up and the A-10 lumbered forward, ungainly on the ground, a creature built for a different element entirely. The sky above Afghanistan was bruised purple and orange, sunlight dying behind mountains sharp as broken teeth. Alara lifted off and banked east, climbing slowly, steadily, like it had all the time in the world. She didn't. The radio came alive with overlapping voices, ground controllers, air traffic command, all trying to coordinate chaos. She dialed in the frequency for Strike Team 7. Static. Then a voice, tight with adrenaline and fear. Any station, this is Havoc 1 actual. We are troops in contact, heavy casualties. Requesting immediate close air support. Grid November Tango 734582. Alara keyed her mic. Havoc 1 actual, this is Warden 1-1. Inbound your position. ETA 12 minutes. What's your situation? A pause, then. Warden 1-1, we are pinned in a canyon, taking fire from elevated positions north and south ridgelines. Multiple machine gun emplacements, possibly RPGs. We've got 3 urgent surgical 2 KIA. Cannot maneuver, cannot extract. Copy all, stay tight, I'm coming. She checked her instruments. Fuel good. Ordnance loaded, Maverick missiles, Hydra rockets, and 1,100 rounds of 30mm depleted uranium in the GAU-8 Avenger cannon. The gun. That beautiful, terrible gun that made the whole airframe shudder when it fired, that could turn an armored vehicle into scrap metal in 3 seconds. She'd fired it in training, in combat, and every time it felt like holding lightning in her hands. The terrain below shifted from flatland to ridges, shadow-filled valleys where the sun didn't reach. Alara descended, keeping altitude, eyes scanning. The sandstorm was closing in from the west, a brown wall moving fast. She had maybe 20 minutes of visibility left, maybe less. She pushed the throttle forward. The A-10 wasn't fast, not compared to fighters, not compared to anything modern, but it was steady, reliable. It stayed in the air when other aircraft would have been grounded. Havoc 1 actual, Warden 1-1. I have visual on the canyon, marking your position now. Warden 1-1, we're the ones not shooting at you. She almost smiled. Gallows humor, the best kind. She spotted the friendlies, vehicles clustered in a narrow defile, muzzle flashes sparking from the ridges above like fireflies. She rolled inverted, pulled the nose down, and began her attack run. The world outside the canopy tilted, earth and sky trading places. She could see them now. The machine gun nests, the fighters moving between rocks, the RPG teams repositioning. Targets. Elara armed the Mavericks, locked onto the first emplacement and fired. The missile dropped away clean, motor igniting, streaking toward the ridgeline in a white contrail. 2 seconds later, the explosion bloomed orange and black, rock and debris cascading down the slope. Good hit, good hit. Havoc 1 Actual's voice electric with relief. North Ridge, more guns at your 2 o'clock. She banked hard, pulled up, and came around for another pass. The A-10 responded like a plow horse, not elegant but dependable. She could feel every adjustment in the stick, every shift in the air. This was what she was good at. Not the politicking, not the smiles and handshakes and proving herself over and over. This. The sky, the machine, the mission. She armed rockets, locked onto the second target, and fired a salvo. 6 Hydras streaked out in a spread, impacting the ridge in a rolling series of detonations. Dust and smoke erupted, obscuring the target area. She waited. The smoke cleared. Movement. Still active. Havoc 1 Actual, enemy forces still maneuvering on South Ridge. I'm going guns. Copy Warden, we're keeping our heads down. Elara nosed over into a dive, lining up the GAU-8. The A-10 shook as she pressed the trigger, a deep growling BRRRRRRT that rattled her teeth. 30mm rounds tore into the ridgeline at 70 per second, chewing through rock and flesh and anything in between. She held the trigger for 3 seconds, then pulled up hard, the G-forces pressing her into the seat. Behind her, the ridge was a smoking ruin. Warden 1-1, that's a kill. South Ridge is neutralized. She climbed again, circling, scanning for more threats. The sandstorm was closer now, the leading edge already obscuring the western horizon. Visibility dropping. She checked fuel. Still good. She could stay on station another 15 minutes, maybe 20. Enough time. Then the radio crackled. Different voice. Command. Warden 1-1, be advised, we have additional units reporting contact 3 clicks north of your position. QRF is requesting air support. Elara's jaw tightened. 3 clicks. That was another engagement entirely. But Havoc 1 Actual wasn't secure yet. She keyed the mic. Command, Havoc 1 Actual is still under fire. I need to finish this. Negative, Warden. QRF is priority. RTB when Havoc is secure. She didn't respond immediately. Just circled, watching the canyon below, the soldiers huddled behind their vehicles, the ridges where moments ago death had rained down. Finish the job. That was the rule. You don't leave until they're safe. She made her decision. Command, Warden 1-1. I'm staying with Havoc until extract is complete. A pause, then a different voice, colder. Warden, you are ordered to proceed to QRF position. Elara didn't flinch. Negative, Command. Havoc 1 Actual is still vulnerable. I'm not leaving them. The radio went silent. Below in the canyon, Staff Sergeant Damon Cross pressed himself against the side of a Humvee, the metal hot even through his gloves. He could hear the A-10 circling above, that distinctive whine of twin turbofans, the sound every grunt loved because it meant someone had their back. He'd never met Captain Warden. Didn't know anything about her except the call sign and the fact that she just saved his life and the lives of 14 other men. He keyed his radio. Warden 1-1, Havoc 1 Actual. We've got eyes on enemy reinforcements moving in from the east. Approximately 20 fighters, technicals with mounted weapons. Elara saw them. Pickup trucks, heavy machine guns bolted in the beds, racing across the desert toward the canyon. They'd flank Havoc's position in minutes. She checked ordnance. 2 Mavericks left, rockets expended, plenty of cannon rounds. She rolled into another attack run, dove steep, and fired a Maverick at the lead vehicle. The missile struck dead center, the truck erupting in a fireball that flipped end over end. The others scattered, but they didn't stop. She fired the second Maverick, hit another truck, then pulled up and came around for guns. The GAU-8 roared again, stitching a line of destruction across the desert floor. Trucks exploded. Fighters scattered. Dust and smoke filled the air. She pulled up, breathing hard, adrenaline singing in her veins. The sandstorm was almost on top of her now, visibility down to 2 miles. She needed to get out of here. Havoc 1 actual, Warden 1-1. Area is clear. What's your extract status? Warden hellos inbound, ETA 8 minutes. We can hold. Copy. I'm staying overhead until they're on deck. She climbed into the murk, circling above the canyon like a guardian angel made of titanium and wrath. The sandstorm rolled in, swallowing the world in brown twilight. She flew on instruments, trusting the machine, trusting herself. 8 minutes. Then the sound of rotors, the heavy thump of Chinooks descending into the canyon. She watched on thermals as the soldiers loaded casualties, equipment themselves, lifting off. Clear. Havoc 1 actual, airborne and en route home. Warden 1-1, thank you. We owe you. Alara's voice was steady. Just doing the job, Havoc. Stay safe. She turned west, back toward Bagram, flying through the storm, the A-10 bucking and shuddering in the turbulence. She didn't think about the orders she'd ignored. Didn't think about what was waiting for her when she landed. Just flew. When Alara taxied back onto the ramp at Bagram, the sun was gone and the sky was the color of old bruises. She shut down the engines, ran through the post-flight checklist, and climbed out of the cockpit. Ground crew swarmed the aircraft, inspecting damage, refueling, rearming. She didn't wait. Just walked across the tarmac toward the operations center, helmet under one arm, flight suit stained with sweat. She knew what was coming. Lieutenant Colonel Vance was waiting inside, arms crossed, face unreadable. Behind him, half a dozen other officers watched in silence. Alara stopped in front of him, stood at attention. Vance didn't speak for a long moment. Then, you disobeyed a direct order. Yes, sir. You were told to proceed to the QRF position. Yes, sir. And instead, you remained on station with Havoc 1 actual. Yes, sir. Vance uncrossed his arms. Why? Alara met his eyes. Because they weren't secure. Because leaving them would have meant casualties. Because that's the job. Another silence. Then Vance nodded slowly. Havoc 1 actual is intact. 15 soldiers extracted with no additional casualties. He paused. The QRF engagement was resolved by fast movers out of Kandahar. Alara said nothing. Vance stepped closer, lowered his voice. You made the right call, Captain, but you put me in a difficult position. Orders exist for a reason. I understand, sir. Do you? Vance studied her. You've been here 9 months. You fly more missions than anyone else in your squadron. You don't complain, you don't ask for recognition, and you sure as hell don't play the game. Why? Alara's expression didn't change. Because the job matters more than the game, sir. Vance held her gaze, then nodded again. Dismissed, Captain. She saluted, turned, and walked out. Behind her, she heard someone say quietly, She's got stones, I'll give her that. She didn't look back. In the ready room, Alara sat down, pulled off her boots, and leaned back in the chair. Her hands were shaking. Adrenaline crash. It always hit after, never during. She closed her eyes, breath deep, and let it pass. Someone cleared their throat. She opened her eyes. Major Kyle Brennan stood in the doorway, another A-10 pilot, 10 years her senior. He'd flown combat in Iraq, had the medals to prove it. He'd also been one of the ones who looked past her in briefings. Brennan didn't say anything at first. Just stood there, weight shifting from one foot to the other like he wasn't sure how to start. Finally, I heard what you did today. Alara pulled her boots back on, laced them slowly. Just flew the mission. You ignored orders, stayed with Havoc when Command told you to leave. That's right. Brennan nodded, looked at the floor, then back at her. I would have followed orders. Alara finished lacing her boots, stood. Then it's good I was the one in the cockpit. She walked past him toward the door. Brennan's voice stopped her. Warden, wait, she turned. He looked uncomfortable, like he was chewing on something bitter. I owe you an apology, we all do. We thought, he stopped, started again. We didn't give you a fair shake, that was wrong. Alara studied him. No smile, no softening, just honesty. Apology accepted, Major. Now if we're done, I need to debrief and get some food. Yeah, of course. Brennan stepped aside. She walked out. Behind her, she heard him say quietly, hell of a pilot. She didn't acknowledge it, didn't need to. The mission spoke for itself. Over the next 3 weeks, Alara flew 11 more sorties. Close air support, reconnaissance, armed escort, every mission exactly by the book, exactly on target. The squadron started calling her the Raven, after the nose art on Razorback. It wasn't official, but it stuck. Pilots who'd ignored her before started asking her opinion in briefings. Ground controllers requested her by call sign. She didn't let it change anything. Still showed up early, flew hard, debriefed thoroughly, and disappeared into the ready room with her book. But something had shifted. Respect, grudging at first, then genuine. She'd proven herself not with words but with action, and in the military that was the only currency that mattered. Then came the mission that would define everything. It started with intelligence reports of a high-value target, a Taliban commander responsible for coordinating attacks across 3 provinces. He was moving through a village in the Korangal Valley, and special forces wanted him dead. The mission was greenlit. 2 teams on the ground, air support from a pair of Apache helicopters and 1 A-10 on standby. Alara drew the standby slot. She didn't mind. Standby meant you waited, ready to launch if things went bad. Most of the time, nothing happened. This wasn't most of the time. Alara was in the cockpit, engines idling when the call came. Warden 1-1, this is Reaper 6 Actual. We are troops in contact, I say again, troops in contact. Request immediate air support. The voice was strained, background noise loud, gunfire, explosions, chaos. Alara keyed the mic. Reaper 6 Actual, Warden 1-1 is rolling now. Give me your posit and enemy disposition. Warden, we are in the village grid Papa Kilo 927413. We have enemy fighters in buildings, rooftops, alleyways. Apache or Winchester, RTB for rearm. You're all we've got. Winchester, out of ammunition. That meant the attack helicopters had already expended everything and were heading back to base. Alara was alone. She throttled up, released brakes, and Razorback rolled forward, gathering speed, lifting off into the darkening sky. The Korangal Valley was 30 minutes out. She pushed the throttle as far forward as it would go. The A-10 wasn't built for speed, but she coaxed every knot out of it. Reaper 6 Actual, Warden 1-1 is inbound. Hold position, I'm coming. Copy, Warden, make it fast. We're getting chewed up here. She flew low, following the valleys, the mountains rising like walls on either side. The sun was setting, long shadows pooling in the canyons. Night operations. Harder, more dangerous, but not impossible. She had thermals. She had the gun. She had training. The village appeared ahead, a cluster of mud brick buildings clinging to a hillside. She saw muzzle flashes, tracers streaking in the twilight. The Special Forces teams were pinned in a courtyard, surrounded on 3 sides. Alara armed the GAU-8, lined up on the nearest building, and fired. The gun roared, 30mm rounds punching through walls like paper. The building collapsed in a cloud of dust. She pulled up, banked hard, and came around for another pass. Reaper 6 Actual, Warden 1-1. I need you to mark targets with IR strobes. I can't tell friendlies from hostiles in this light. Copy, marking now. Infrared strobes flickered to life in the courtyard, visible only through her night vision. Everything else was fair game. She dove again, selected rockets this time, and fired a salvo into a building on the east side. The structure erupted, flames licking into the sky. "Good hit, Warden, keep it coming." She circled, hunting targets, firing in controlled bursts. The engagement lasted 18 minutes. 18 minutes of diving, firing, pulling up, circling, and diving again. Alara's hands moved without thought. Instinct and training merged into something beyond conscious effort. She was the aircraft was her, and together they were a weapon delivering precision and fury. When the last hostile position went silent, when the guns stopped, when the only sound was the whine of her engines and the ragged breathing of soldiers on the ground, she pulled up and circled at altitude. "Reaper 6 Actual, Warden 1-1, area is secure. What's your casualty count?" "Warden, we've got 2 wounded, non-critical. No KIA, you saved our asses." "Just doing the job, Reaper. Exfil is inbound, ETA 15 minutes. I'll hold overhead until they're on deck." "Copy, and Warden, seriously, thank you." She didn't respond, just flew circles in the dark, watching the thermals, making sure no one snuck back in. The helicopters arrived, soldiers loaded, lifted off. She escorted them out of the valley, then turned back toward Bagram. Fuel was low. She'd pushed it hard, but she'd make it. She always did. When she landed, the sky was full of stars and the base was quiet. She taxied to the ramp, shut down, climbed out. The maintenance chief was waiting, a short, grizzled man named Gutierrez who'd been working on A-10s for 20 years. He looked at the aircraft, then at her. "How'd she do?" "Perfect, like always." Gutierrez grinned. "That's what I like to hear. We'll have her ready for you in the morning, Captain." Alara nodded, walked toward the operations center. Vance was waiting, along with a full-bird colonel she didn't recognize. They stood as she entered. Vance spoke first. "Captain Warden, this is Colonel Sarah Hendricks, Special Operations Command." Hendricks extended her hand. Alara shook it. Hendricks said, "I just got off the phone with Reaper 6 Actual. He had some very complimentary things to say about your performance tonight." "I appreciate that, ma'am." "He also said you're the best close air support pilot he's ever worked with." High praise coming from a man with 15 years in Special Forces. Alara didn't know what to say to that, so she said nothing. Hendricks smiled. "You're being put in for a Distinguished Flying Cross, Captain. That's 2 combat engagements in 3 weeks where you directly saved American lives under extremely adverse conditions. That's not luck. That's skill." Alara stood at attention, uncomfortable with the praise but professional enough not to show it. Hendricks continued, "We need more pilots like you, Captain. Pilots who understand that the mission comes first, who don't flinch when things get ugly, who make the hard calls. I'm recommending you for a position with our task force. Interested?" Alara blinked. Task force. That meant special operations, high-risk missions, the sharp end of the spear. It also meant she'd be out of the regular rotation, away from the politics and bureaucracy. Just flying, just doing the job. "Yes, ma'am, I'm interested." Hendricks nodded. "Good, we'll talk details tomorrow. For now, get some rest. You've earned it." Alara saluted, turned, and walked out. Vance followed her. Outside, under the stars, he said, "You deserve this, Warden. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." She looked at him. "Did you think I deserved it 3 weeks ago, sir?" Vance had the decency to look uncomfortable. "No, I didn't. I was wrong." "Why the change?" "Because I watched you fly. I watched you make decisions under fire. I watched you put the mission and the soldiers first every time without hesitation. That's what a combat pilot looks like. I should have seen it sooner." Alara nodded slowly. "Apology accepted, sir." Vance smiled, a rare expression. "Get some sleep, Captain. You're going to need it." She walked back to her quarters, showered, and lay down on the narrow cot. Sleep didn't come immediately. Her mind was still in the cockpit, still circling over that village, still hearing the voices of soldiers thanking her. She'd spent her whole career proving herself, fighting for every inch of respect, every acknowledgement. And now, finally, it felt like she'd broken through. Not because of politics or quotas or anything except the simple fact that she was damn good at her job. She closed her eyes and let exhaustion take her. The next 6 months were a blur of missions. The task force assignment put her in direct support of Special Forces operations across Afghanistan and occasionally into Pakistan. High-risk, low-visibility missions where failure wasn't an option. She flew at night in weather that grounded other aircraft, through terrain that would kill a less experienced pilot, and she never lost a team. Not once. Her call sign evolved. The Raven became Raven 6, the number denoting her status as a mission commander. Other pilots rotated in and out, but Alara stayed. 9 months became 12, became 18. She extended her deployment twice. Command didn't question it. They needed her. The teams on the ground needed her. And she needed the mission, the clarity of it, the purpose. Out here in the cockpit of Razorback, she wasn't fighting for recognition or respect. She was fighting to bring soldiers home alive. That was enough. But even the best pilots have limits. Even the best luck runs out. It happened on a mission in the Pech River Valley, a notorious Taliban stronghold. 2 Special Forces teams were conducting a raid on a compound suspected of housing a bomb-making cell. Intelligence was solid. The plan was tight. Alara was providing overwatch, circling at 10,000 feet, thermals scanning the area for threats. Everything was quiet. Too quiet. Then the explosion. Massive, orange and white, a fireball that climbed into the night sky like a mushroom cloud. One of the teams had triggered an IED, a massive one buried under the courtyard. The radio erupted with voices, panicked, overlapping. Reaper 3 is down. I say again, Reaper 3 is down. We have mass casualties, need immediate medevac. Alara's voice cut through the chaos. Reaper Actual, Warden 6, give me a sitrep. Warden, we've got 6 wounded, 3 critical. Building collapsed. We're trying to dig them out, but we're taking fire from the East Ridge. Copy, I'm engaging the ridge now. Hold tight. She nosed over into a dive, locked onto the muzzle flashes, and fired the GAU-8. The ridge lit up under the barrage, but return fire kept coming. These weren't amateurs. They were dug in, disciplined, waiting for this. A trap. She pulled up, circled, and dove again. This time she saw them, fighters with RPGs maneuvering into position. She fired rockets, hit 2 positions, but more emerged from caves she hadn't seen on thermals. Damn it. She keyed the mic. Reaper Actual, you've got a reinforced position on that ridge. I'm going to need danger close authorization to clear it. Warden, we're less than 50 meters from that ridge. I know, trust me. A pause, then, cleared hot. Warden, do it. Alara armed another salvo of rockets, dove steep, and released at the last possible second. The rockets impacted just beyond the ridge, the shockwave rippling across the compound below. She pulled up hard, G-forces crushing her into the seat, and climbed. Below the ridge was a smoking crater. Radio chatter confirmed enemy fire had ceased, but the casualties were still critical. Medevac was inbound, but they needed time. Time she could buy them. Reaper Actual, Warden 6, I'm holding overhead. Anything moves on that ridge, I'll drop it. Copy, Warden. Medevac ETA 6 minutes. 6 minutes, an eternity in combat. She circled, eyes scanning, thermals sweeping. Movement, east side, more fighters approaching. She fired the gun, stitched a line across the hillside. The fighters scattered, retreated. She circled again. Fuel was getting low. She had maybe 20 minutes of loiter time left. The medevac birds appeared, Black Hawks running dark, fast. They descended into the compound, rotors kicking up dust. She watched on thermals as soldiers loaded casualties, working frantically. One bird lifted off, then the second, clear. Warden 6, medevac is airborne. Thanks for the cover. Roger, Reaper, stay safe. She turned west, back toward Bagram. The A-10 felt sluggish, heavy. She checked instruments, fuel lower than she thought. She'd burned through reserves faster than calculated. She did the math. She'd make it. Barely. She pushed the throttle forward, coaxing every bit of efficiency out of the engines. The mountains slid past beneath her, dark and endless. Then the warning light. Engine fire left side. Her heart didn't race. Training kicked in. She shut down the left engine, activated the extinguisher, and trimmed the aircraft to compensate. The A-10 could fly on one engine. It was designed to. She adjusted course, calculated fuel again. Still good. She'd make it. Then the second warning light. Hydraulic failure, primary system. She switched to backup. Sluggish controls, but functional. She was 20 miles from Bagram. Close. So close. Bagram Tower, Warden 6. I have engine fire, hydraulic failure, requesting priority landing. Warden 6, Bagram Tower, cleared direct runway 27. Emergency equipment standing by. She descended, the airfield lights appearing in the distance like a beacon. She lined up, dropped gear, adjusted trim. The A-10 shuddered, protesting, but held together. Tough old bird, just like her. She crossed the threshold, flared, and touched down hard. The landing gear held. She braked, rolled to a stop, and shut down the remaining engine. Silence. Fire trucks surrounded Razorback within seconds, foam spraying over the left engine. Alara sat in the cockpit, hands still on the stick, breathing slowly. That had been close, closer than she wanted to admit. She unstrapped, climbed out, and stood on the ramp, watching the ground crew swarm over her aircraft. Gutierrez approached, shaking his head. "You're trying to give me a heart attack, Captain." "Just keeping you employed, Chief." He laughed, but his eyes were serious. "That bird took a beating tonight. We'll patch her up, but she's gonna need some downtime." "How long?" "Week, maybe 2. Alara nodded. A week without flying. She didn't like it, but she didn't argue. Razorback had earned a rest. So had she. Over the next few days, Alara caught up on paperwork, attended briefings, and tried to relax. It didn't work. She was restless without missions, without the routine of pre-flight checks and takeoffs and the hum of engines. On the 4th day, Vance called her into his office. He looked tired, older than she remembered. "Sit down, Captain." She sat. Vance leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. "You've been here almost 2 years. You've flown more combat sorties than anyone in the squadron. You've saved more lives than I can count. And you've been recommended for medals I can't even keep track of anymore." Alara waited. There was a but coming. Vance continued, "But you're burning out. I can see it. You need to rotate home, take some leave, decompress." "I'm fine, sir." "You're not. And even if you were, the regulation says you rotate after 2 years. No exceptions." Alara's jaw tightened. "Sir, with respect, the teams need me. I know the terrain, I know the tactics, I know." "I know what you know, Captain, but orders are orders. You're rotating back to the States in 2 weeks. That's final." She wanted to argue, wanted to fight it, but she saw the look in his eyes, concern, not hostility. He wasn't punishing her. He was protecting her. She nodded slowly. "Yes, sir." Vance's expression softened. "You did good work here, Warden. Better than good. You set a standard that other pilots are going to be measured against for years. Be proud of that." She stood, saluted, and walked out. The next 2 weeks passed in a haze. Alara flew one last mission, a routine patrol, no contact, no drama, and then she was done. Razorback was still in maintenance, so she flew a different A-10, and it felt wrong, like wearing someone else's boots. When she landed, she said goodbye to the ground crew, to the other pilots, to the soldiers she'd flown support for. They shook her hand, thanked her, told her she'd always be welcome. It felt hollow. She didn't want thanks. She wanted to keep flying. On her last night at Bagram, she walked out to the flight line alone. Razorback was parked at the far end, still being repaired, illuminated by floodlights. She stood in front of it, looking up at the scarred fuselage, the patched panels, the faded nose art, the raven and the broken sword. Someone had added new text beneath it, stenciled in white. "Warden's bird." She reached out, touched the cold metal. This machine had kept her alive through dozens of missions, through fire and flak and everything the enemy could throw at her. It was ugly, slow, outdated, and it was perfect. "Gonna miss you too, Captain." She turned. Gutierrez stood a few feet away, hands in his pockets. She nodded. "Take care of her, Chief." "Always do. You take care of yourself." She walked away, back toward the operations center, and didn't look back. The flight home was long, boring, uncomfortable, everything military travel always was. Alara slept most of the way, or tried to. When she landed at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base in Arizona, the desert heat hit her like a wall. It felt different from Afghanistan. Cleaner, safer, wrong. She processed through personnel, turned in her gear, and caught a cab to a hotel off base. She had 30 days of leave before her next assignment, 30 days to figure out what came next. She spent the first week sleeping, eating real food, and trying to remember what normal felt like. It didn't work. She felt disconnected, like she was watching her life through a window. Everything was too quiet, too calm. No missions, no emergencies, no purpose. On the 8th day, she got a call. Unknown number. She answered. "Captain Warden." "Speaking." "This is Colonel Hendricks. We met in Afghanistan." Alara sat up. "Yes, ma'am, I remember." Hendricks didn't waste time. "I'm calling because I want to offer you a position. We're standing up a new unit, dedicated close air support for special operations. A-10s exclusively. Small team, high op tempo, working directly with the best ground forces in the world. I want you to lead it." Alara's heart kicked. "Lead it, not just fly, lead." "Ma'am, I'm honored, but I'm just a captain. Shouldn't this go to someone with more rank?" "Rank doesn't fly missions, Captain. You do. And you're the best I've seen. So yes, you'll get promoted probably to major within the year, but that's secondary. I need someone who understands the mission, who the teams trust, who won't hesitate when things go sideways. That's you." Alara didn't know what to say. This was everything she'd worked for, everything she'd proven herself capable of. And it was being handed to her not because of politics or quotas, but because she'd earned it. "When do I start?" 2 weeks. Report to Fort Bragg for briefings and team integration. We deploy in 6 months. "I'll be there, ma'am." "Good, and Warden, welcome to the tip of the spear." The line went dead. Alara sat in the hotel room staring at the phone, and for the first time in weeks she smiled. The next 2 weeks were a blur of preparation. She visited family, her mother in Ohio, her younger brother in Chicago, and tried to explain what she'd been doing for the past 2 years. They didn't understand, not really, but they were proud. That was enough. She bought new gear, updated her will, and read everything she could find about the new unit. It was classified, details sparse, but the mission was clear. Provide unmatched close air support for the most dangerous operations in the most hostile environments. Exactly what she was good at. When she arrived at Fort Bragg, she was met by a lean, intense major named Reese who walked her through the compound. "You're the first pilot assigned," he said. "We're still building the team. Colonel Hendricks wants 4 A-10s, 8 pilots, full maintenance and logistics support. You'll help select the pilots." Alara nodded. "What's the criteria?" "Combat experience, proven performance under fire. No ego, people who put the mission first." "Sounds familiar." Reese smiled. "Yeah, we heard about you." Over the next month, Alara interviewed pilots, reviewed flight records, and made recommendations. She picked carefully, men and women who reminded her of herself. Quiet professionals who didn't need the spotlight, who just wanted to do the job right. By the time the team was assembled, she'd been promoted to major. The ceremony was small, just Hendricks and a few others. Hendricks pinned the new rank on her collar and said, "Congratulations, Major. Now get to work." Alara did. She trained the team relentlessly, formation flying, night operations, close air support drills with live Special Forces units. She pushed them hard, but no harder than she pushed herself. And slowly the unit came together. They started calling themselves Raven Flight after her call sign. She didn't stop them. 6 months later they deployed. Not Afghanistan this time. Syria. The war against ISIS was winding down, but there were still pockets of resistance, still missions that needed precision and firepower. Raven Flight operated out of a small airfield in Jordan, flying cross-border strikes in support of joint task forces. The missions were intense, dangerous, exactly what they'd trained for. Alara led from the front, flying as many sorties as anyone, setting the standard. And the teams on the ground loved them. Raven Flight became the call sign everyone wanted on their mission, because they knew with absolute certainty, that if things went bad, if the bullets started flying and the bombs started dropping, Raven Flight would be there. And they wouldn't leave until everyone was safe. Alara flew for another 3 years. 3 years of missions, of lives saved, of moments where skill and courage and a tough old airplane made the difference between someone going home or not going home at all. She collected medals she didn't care about, and commendations that meant less than a single thank you from a soldier on the ground. She became a legend in the special operations community, a name spoken with respect and admiration. But eventually, even legends have to stop flying. It happened quietly. No dramatic ending, no final battle, just a conversation with a general who told her she'd done enough, that it was time to pass the torch to train the next generation. She was 41 years old. She'd been flying combat missions for nearly 15 years. Her body was tired. Her mind was tired. And for the first time, she didn't argue. She retired from active duty and took a position as an instructor at the weapons school at Nellis Air Force Base, teaching young pilots how to fly the A-10, how to think under fire, how to put the mission first. She was good at it, better than she expected. Years passed. Raven Flight continued without her, new pilots stepping into the roles she and her team had created. The A-10 kept flying, kept proving the doubters wrong, kept saving lives. And Alara watched from the sidelines, proud of what she'd built, proud of the legacy she'd left. Then one day, 20 years after that first mission in Afghanistan, she got a call. A former Special Forces operator named Cross, Staff Sergeant Damon Cross, now retired, wanted to meet her. They arranged to meet at a diner near Nellis. Alara arrived early, ordered coffee, and waited. Cross walked in, older, grayer, but she recognized him immediately. He sat down across from her, smiled. "Major Warden, been a long time." "Captain Cross, good to see you." "It's just Damon now. Haven't been Captain Cross in 10 years. "Fair enough. What can I do for you, Damon?" He reached into his jacket, pulled out a folded piece of paper, and slid it across the table. "I wanted to show you this. It's a list. Names of every soldier who was in the devil's throat that day when you pulled us out. 15 names." He tapped the paper. "Every single one of us went home. Got to see our families, our kids. Some of us have grandkids now. All because you stayed when command told you to leave." Alara looked at the list, the names written in careful block letters. She didn't know what to say. Cross continued, "We talk about you sometimes. The guys from that day, we remember. And we wanted you to know that what you did mattered, not just that day, every day since." Alara's throat tightened. She nodded, not trusting her voice. Cross stood, extended his hand. She shook it. "Thank you, Major, for everything." He walked out. Alara sat alone in the diner, holding the list, reading the names. 15 lives, 15 families, 15 futures that existed because she'd made a choice, because she'd flown a mission, because she'd been in the right place at the right time with the right skills and the right airplane. She folded the paper carefully, put it in her pocket, and walked out into the Nevada sun. The sky was clear and endless, the way it always was. She looked up, shielding her eyes, and thought about Razorback, about the missions, about the soldiers who'd trusted her and the ones she'd saved. It had been hard. It had been lonely. It had been worth it. Somewhere an A-10 was flying. Somewhere a pilot was circling over a battlefield, keeping soldiers safe, bringing them home. And that was enough.